I deliberately hid my wealth, disguising myself as a homeless woman in front of my mother-in-law's house. Instead of helping me, she spat at me. "This isn't a garbage dump," she screamed. I dragged my feet and left. But the next day, I returned in a luxury car. But before the story begins, please write in the comments where you're all watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. The 10-foot-tall wrought iron gates loomed before me, their black bars shimmering in the brutal Los Angeles sun. Normally, these gates would glide open automatically, the sensor reading the license plate of my gleaming black sedan. The security guard would stand at attention, offering a crisp salute and a wide smile, welcoming the favorite daughter-in-law who always arrived bearing expensive gifts. But today, everything was different. I stood on the edge of the hot asphalt wearing a faded, oversized t-shirt I had intentionally ruined with too much bleach the night before. In my hand wasn't the leather handbag that cost as much as a new car, but a cheap, reusable grocery tote with a broken zipper. Its only contents were a few shabby pieces of clothing. I took a deep breath, trying to calm a heart that was pounding not from fear, but from the adrenaline of the charade I was about to perform. David, my husband, was in Europe on a business trip for 2 weeks. His communication was limited as he was in a mountainous region surveying a potential mine. This was the perfect time. I had to know if the affection from Eleanor, my mother-in-law, and Jessica, my sister-in-law, was genuine, or if they only loved the walking ATM I had become. "Excuse me, Frank," I said softly through the gap in the security booth window. Frank, the usually cheerful guard, squinted. He was sipping coffee from a thermos. It took him a full 5 seconds to recognize my makeup-free face, my hair thrown into a messy, lopsided bun. "Mrs. Sterling?" Frank choked on his coffee. He scrambled out of the booth, his eyes scanning my appearance from my cheap rubber flip-flops to my face, which I'd made look puffy and greasy. "Amelia, what happened? Where's your car? Where's Mr. Sterling?" "Please, just open the gate, Frank. I need to see Eleanor." My voice trembled. The artificial tears I'd applied with eye drops 5 minutes ago worked perfectly, making my eyes look red and miserable. Frank, though confused, unlocked the small pedestrian gate. His gaze was a mixture of pity and suspicion. "Go on in, ma'am. Mrs. Sterling and Jessica are on the back patio having some wine." I stepped inside. My feet felt heavy as I walked across the perfectly manicured lawn grass, whose monthly maintenance cost more than a minimum wage worker's salary. On the back patio overlooking the swimming pool, I saw them. Eleanor sat in a cushioned rattan chair, wearing a silk lounge set. A glass of chilled rosé was in her hand. Beside her, Jessica was engrossed in her phone, her manicured fingers flying across the screen, letting out an occasional giggle, a picture of peaceful, jet-set tranquility. "Eleanor!" I called out, my voice hoarse. The peaceful scene shattered. Jessica looked up first, her eyes widening in disbelief. Eleanor slowly set down her glass, her perfectly microbladed eyebrows knitting together in a sharp V. "Amelia?" It was Jessica who spoke first. Her tone wasn't one of concern, but of pure shock, as if a rat had just scurried into her soup. "Oh my God, what happened to you? Did you get mugged? You look homeless." I let the cheap tote bag fall to the marble floor with a pathetic thud. Then, I knelt near Eleanor's feet, deliberately letting the street grime on my knees stain her beloved Italian marble. "Eleanor, please help me," I sobbed, getting into character. "My business, it's ruined. The main warehouse burned down 2 days ago. The insurance won't pay out. They're claiming negligence. I was scammed by a business partner. The bank seized all my assets this morning." Eleanor pulled her feet away as if I had a contagious skin disease. Her calm face was now a tight mask of tension. "What are you talking about? Bankrupt? How is that possible? Your company makes millions." "It's gone, Eleanor. Everything's gone," I wailed, hamming it up. "My accounts are frozen. The house is in foreclosure. The cars have been repossessed. I have nowhere to go. Loan sharks are after me. They even went to my parents' house back in Ohio. I had to take a Greyhound bus to get here." Jessica stood up and circled me as if inspecting roadkill. She pinched her nose with her bright red nails. Wait. So you're broke? Like, $0, massive debt, broke?" I nodded weakly. "I only have the clothes in this bag. I don't have a single dollar. I was hoping I could stay here, just until David gets back." "Does David know about this?" Eleanor asked sharply. Her eyes held not a shred of sympathy, only cold calculation. I tried texting him, but it won't deliver. There's no signal where he is. Please, Eleanor, just let me stay in the guest room for a week. I'm so hungry. I haven't had a real meal since yesterday. Eleanor and Jessica exchanged a look. Jessica gave her mother a clear signal, a cynical glance that swept from my limp hair to my dusty flip-flops. Slowly, Eleanor leaned back into her plush chair. She picked up her wine glass, took an elegant sip, and then looked at me with a gaze that sent a chill down my spine. The warm, motherly smile she'd always shown me when I transferred her monthly allowance was gone. "Stay here?" Eleanor repeated my question in a low, terrifying tone. She set her glass down with a sharp clink. "Amelia, are you aware that the maids just cleaned this floor? And you come in here with germs from God knows where and have the audacity to ask for the guest room?" My heart sank. Ah, there it was, the real face, cracking through the facade. "Jessica, please." I tried, reaching for the hem of her designer culottes, but my sister-in-law jumped back nimbly as if I were a diseased rat. "Don't touch me. This is imported silk. If your greasy hands get on it, the dry cleaning bill will be insane," Jessica snapped. Her eyes then narrowed suspiciously, shifting from my face to the tote bag on the floor. "Mom, don't just believe her. Who knows if she's lying? Rich people who go broke always have a stash somewhere. Check her bag. Maybe she's hiding gold or diamonds in there while pretending to be a beggar to make us feel sorry for her." Eleanor nodded slowly, agreeing with her daughter's vile idea. "You're right. Check it, Jess. If she has anything valuable, we can take it as collateral for the food and water she'll probably beg for later." Without a shred of decency, Jessica snatched the bag and dumped its contents onto the marble coffee table. Clatter. Out tumbled not velvet jewelry boxes or stacks of $100 bills, but 3 faded t-shirts, a travel-sized shampoo bottle, a toothbrush with frayed bristles, and a few pairs of underwear I'd specifically bought at a discount store this morning for the role. A musty smell wafted from the pile, a stark contrast to the lavender aromatherapy scent filling the luxurious patio. Jessica picked up one of the t-shirts with 2 fingers, her face wrinkled in disgust. "Oh my God, Mom, look at this. The tag is from Walmart. The fabric feels like one of our dish rags," she exclaimed, throwing it back down. "Wow, Amelia, you really have hit rock bottom. Where's your phone? Your iPhone 15 Pro Max, the one you bought last month?" I reached into the pocket of my sweatpants and pulled out an old Android with a cracked screen and a bulging battery. "I sold it. For the bus ticket and some food. This was the old gardener's phone. He left it behind." Jessica laughed, a dry, grating sound. She turned to her mother. "It's legit, Mom. She's officially broke. No wallet, no credit cards, no jewelry. Her wedding ring is even gone." Hearing Jessica's confirmation, Eleanor's entire posture changed. The wariness was replaced by a hard, stony resolve. The mask of the perfect mother-in-law shattered completely, revealing the true face of a predator who had just lost her primary source of income. She looked at me not as a daughter-in-law, but as a liability on a balance sheet. "So," Eleanor's voice was as cold as the ice in her drink, "you come here without a penny to your name, with debts chasing you, and you expect us to take you in? You're my family too, aren't you?" I whispered, looking down. When David's company almost went under, I was the one who injected $3 million without a second thought. When you wanted to renovate this house, I paid the contractor in full, up front. "I'm just asking for a place to sleep, Eleanor. I'm not asking for money." "That was your duty as a wife," Eleanor cut in, her voice rising. "Helping your husband and his family is an obligation, a good deed, but now you want to bring your problems here? Do you have any idea what will happen to our reputation if debt collectors show up here, screaming at our gate? We are a respected family, Amelia." Jessica chimed in eagerly, as if finally given a chance to vent years of pent-up jealousy over my success. "Mom's right. You're just bad luck now. David would be so stressed if he knew his wife was a broke, embarrassing failure. You should have some self-respect and disappear, not burden us." I looked from one to the other. The pain in my heart wasn't from their insults I had expected them. It was from seeing how quickly they erased all my past kindnesses the moment my perceived wealth vanished. Money truly was the best filter for a person's true character. "So, you're kicking me out?" I asked quietly, ensuring every word was seared into my memory. Eleanor snorted, making a shooing gesture with her hand, exactly like someone chasing away a stray cat. "We're not kicking you out. We just can't accommodate a vagrant. This house has standards, Amelia." "And you?" She gestured with her chin toward my pile of clothes. No longer meet those standards. Besides, the guest room you used to use, Jessica is using it for her handbag collection now. It's full. No space. But it's getting cloudy, Eleanor. It's about to rain, I pleaded, trying one last time. Can I just sit on the front porch until it passes? Jessica laughed again. This time, she picked up her expensive phone and aimed the camera at me. Sure, if you want to be a spectacle for the neighbors. But remember, don't you dare try to come inside. You'll get my Persian rugs dirty with your filthy feet. It was then that Jessica did something that made my blood boil beneath my pathetic facade. She snapped a picture of me, kneeling on the floor. A little report for David later, Jessica said with a smirk. So he knows his wife has become a beggar. Maybe it's time he found someone more suitable. Before I could respond, a clap of thunder echoed across the sky. A heavy downpour suddenly began, as if the universe itself was setting the stage for the next act of my suffering. Eleanor stood, smoothing her silk outfit. Let's go inside, Jessica. It's getting wet out here. Let her clean up her own trash. The two of them sauntered into the air-conditioned house, sliding the heavy glass door shut and locking it right in front of my face. I was left alone on the patio, now being soaked by the rain, my dignity trampled into the ground. But through the glass door, I saw someone peeking from behind the kitchen blinds. The rain wasn't just falling, it was a deluge. In seconds, I was soaked to the bone. The thin, worn-out t-shirt clung to my skin, the cold seeping into my marrow. My teeth started to chatter, not just from the cold, but from the rage building inside me as I watched the scene behind the glass door. Inside, the family room was warm and cozy. A crystal chandelier cast a luxurious golden glow. I could see Jessica lounging on an imported leather sofa, laughing on a video call, probably recounting the tale of her disgraced sister-in-law to her socialite friends. Meanwhile, Eleanor, the woman who once praised me to the heavens when I bought her a designer handbag, was now carefully slicing a fancy pastry with a silver knife. I knocked on the glass door. Gently at first, then harder as lightning flashed. Eleanor, Jessica, please. My voice was lost in the roar of the rain, but I knew they could hear me. Jessica turned, her face a mask of annoyance. She ended her call and stomped toward the door. She didn't open it, only slid it open a crack, just enough to stick her heavily made-up face out while the security chain remained latched. What now, Amelia? You're being loud. Your banging is ruining Mom's appetite, Jessica barked. A blast of cold air conditioning hit my wet face, a painful contrast. Please, Jessica, let me just wait in the kitchen. Or the garage, I begged, my lips trembling realistically. I'm freezing. I haven't eaten all day. I'm getting dizzy. Eleanor appeared behind Jessica, still chewing her pastry. She looked me up and down with a clinical, detached gaze, the same look she gave panhandlers at stoplights. Why are you being so dramatic? Eleanor's voice was flat but sharp. It's just a little rain, and you're whining. Remember, Amelia, life is a wheel. You were on top, living lavishly, being arrogant. Now God is teaching you a lesson. You should be out there reflecting, asking for forgiveness, not trying to force your way in and dirtying our house with rainwater. I was stunned. The gaslighting was masterful. Arrogant? I looked straight into Eleanor's eyes. I was never arrogant, Eleanor. Everything I had, I earned. I saved. I used it to buy this very house. I paid for your family's European cruise. Hey, Jessica cut in, her eyes wide. Don't bring up the past. That just proves you weren't sincere. Besides, do you think you got rich on your own? That was David's good fortune rubbing off on you. You're just the wife, a vessel for your husband's luck. If the money's gone now, it means you were the one who couldn't manage it. You wasteful woman. What kind of logic was this? The company was an inheritance from my father that I rebuilt from the ground up. David only joined the management team after we were married. But in their eyes, all my success belonged to David, and all my failures were my own fault. Eleanor, I tried to touch her hand on the door handle, but she snatched it away in disgust. Don't touch me, she yelped, wiping her hand on her own clothes with a look of revulsion. Listen to me, Amelia. We're not being cruel. We're teaching you to be independent. If we help you now, you'll never learn. You'll just keep depending on us. You need to feel what it's like to be poor, to build character. At least give me some water, Eleanor. Tap water is fine, I pleaded, humbling myself as much as I could. There's plenty of rainwater out there. Drink that, it's free, Jessica quipped with a chuckle. Besides, if we let you in, you might get comfortable and bring some disease with you. Who knows what kind of viruses you've picked up living on the streets. Ugh, so gross. Suddenly, from the kitchen behind them, I saw an older figure in a gray uniform hurrying over, carrying a tray with a mug of steaming water. It was Maria, their housekeeper. Her wrinkled face was etched with worry. She had clearly heard the commotion. "Ma'am, please, have pity on Mrs. Sterling." Maria's voice trembled as she dared to speak up. "I brought her some warm water." "Who told you to interfere?" Eleanor roared, her voice booming through the rain. She spun around and, in one swift motion, slapped the tray out of Maria's hands. Crash! The ceramic mug shattered on the hardwood floor. The hot water spilled, steam rising for a moment before disappearing. Maria gasped, her frail body shrinking in fear. "I'm sorry, ma'am, so sorry," she whimpered, picking up the broken shards with trembling hands. "Get back to the kitchen. If you dare give her food or drink without my permission, I'll dock your pay for 3 months." Eleanor threatened sadistically. Maria gave me a quick, tearful glance, a look of sincere apology before retreating to the service area. My heart ached. Maria, whose salary was less than the price of one of Jessica's bags, still had a conscience. The two women in front of me were heartless. Eleanor turned back to me, a triumphant smirk on her face. "See? You just caused trouble. Now my expensive mug is broken because of you. Go away. Stop standing in front of my door like a statue. You're ruining the view of my garden." "Eleanor, please." "Lock the door, Jessica. Double lock it," Eleanor commanded coldly. Jessica happily shoved the door shut. But just before it closed completely, she pressed her face to the gap and whispered, her voice a venomous hiss, "Just so you know, Amelia, we're actually relieved you're broke. David is too good for you." His ex-girlfriend, the senator's daughter? She just got back from London. She's beautiful, classy, and definitely not poor like you. You should just walk away before David has to be the one to kick you to the curb. Slam! The door shut. The sound of the deadbolt turning twice was agonizing. A thick curtain was drawn, completely blocking my view of the warmth inside. I stood frozen in the downpour. The water streaming down my face was no longer artificial. They were real tears of incandescent rage. But my performance wasn't over. I had to push them to their absolute limit. I staggered to a wrought iron bench at the corner of the patio, unprotected from the rain. I sat there, hugging my knees, letting the storm drench me, a perfect portrait of a hopeless vagrant. But in the pocket of my soaked sweatpants, my right hand clutched the old burner phone. The voice recorder had been running since I got out of the taxi down the street. Every insult, every lie, the sound of the shattering mug, it was all captured in crystal clear audio. But Eleanor wasn't finished. Suddenly, a side door opened. It wasn't Maria, but 2 Dobermans, the house guard dogs, snarling as they were unleashed by Frank, who was clearly being forced by Jessica from a distance. The 2 dogs, Bruno and Rex, charged through the rain toward me, their barks deafening. Their teeth gleamed under the garden lights, ready to tear apart any intruder. Jessica stood safely behind the glass, a wide grin on her face, recording the moment, eagerly anticipating my bloody demise. I froze, holding my breath. My heart felt like it stopped beating. Not because I was afraid of being bitten, I had bought and trained them since they were puppies, but because I feared their animal instincts might be overridden by their new master's commands. "Bruno, Rex, sit!" I commanded, my voice firm despite shivering from the cold. Their powerful legs skidded to a halt, just 3 feet in front of me. Their noses twitched, sniffing the air, cutting through the scent of rain and my musty clothes. Their tails, which had been rigid, slowly lowered. Rex approached cautiously, sniffed my wet hand, and let out a soft whine. Bruno followed, licking my dirty knee. They recognized me. These vicious beasts had a better memory for affection than the humans inside that house. Behind the glass, Jessica's smile vanished. She seemed to shout something, and the side door burst open again. This time it was Eleanor, her face red with rage, being shielded by Jessica with an umbrella. "Useless dogs, why did you stop?" Eleanor screamed at the animals, then her furious gaze landed on me. "And you, still playing games with my pets? Are you trying to bewitch them too?" "It's not witchcraft, Eleanor," I said, trying to stand. but my legs cramped from the cold. I fell back onto the hard paving stones. See? Even the guard dogs know I'm not a threat. I'm still family. Eleanor marched forward, her high heels clicking menacingly on the stone. She stopped right in front of me, looking down as if I were a piece of filth on the sole of her shoe. Family? Eleanor let out a humorless laugh. Listen to me carefully, Amelia. The definition of family in my dictionary is people of equal standing who benefit each other and uphold the family's dignity. Right now, you are nothing but a vagrant tarnishing my son's good name. If David knew you'd become like this, he would be mortified to have you as a wife. I promise I won't be an embarrassment, Eleanor. I'm just asking to sleep in the back shed. Please. I clasped my hands together, begging with what little pride I had left. It's so cold out here, I'm afraid I'll get sick. And who would take care of David then? Jessica sneered. David can find a new wife in a second, one who is healthier, richer, and prettier. Who do you think you are, the Queen of England? Eleanor leaned down, her face close to mine. Her expensive perfume, mixed with the smell of rain, assaulted my nostrils. You want to know my final answer? She whispered. Before I could reply, Eleanor gathered saliva in her mouth and Pewee spat directly on my left cheek. It was warm and disgusting. Mixed with the cold rainwater, it trickled down my chin. My world went silent. The sound of the rain seemed to vanish. All I could hear was the sound of my own heart shattering into dust. This was no longer an act. This was the most primal, degrading insult one human could inflict on another. That's my answer, Eleanor hissed cruelly. This house is not a garbage dump. And you, Amelia, you are nothing more than trash that needs to be thrown out. Eleanor turned toward the security post. Frank, get her out of here now. If she's still on my property in 1 minute, you're fired tomorrow. Frank ran out, his face pale with the fear of losing his job. I'm sorry, Mrs. Sterling. I'm so sorry, he whispered, his voice trembling as he took my arm. His grip was weak. He didn't want to do it. But Eleanor's hawk-like gaze left him no choice. Drag her properly. Don't be so gentle, Jessica yelled. With tears and spit on my cheek, I let Frank drag me away. My feet scraped across the grass and gravel, leaving a trail in the wet earth. I didn't resist. I just stared straight ahead at the patio, memorizing the smug, triumphant faces of Eleanor and Jessica. Frank pulled me all the way outside the tall iron gates. I'm sorry, ma'am. I really am. I have a wife and kids to feed. Frank sobbed before gently letting me go on the side of the road. It's okay, Frank. You're a good man, I whispered, my voice barely audible. He hurried back inside his booth and pressed a button. The massive iron gates began to close with a heavy, mechanical hum. Clang. The gates shut completely, locking me out of my old life. I was truly alone now, on the side of a dark, deserted road. The rain fell harder, drenching my shivering body. No taxis, no Ubers, nowhere to take shelter. There was only me, the darkness, and a pain that was crystallizing into cold, hard vengeance. I hugged my knees under a large tree across the street, trying to choke back a sob. Suddenly, through the roar of the rain, I heard the creak of a rusty hinge. Not from the main gate, but from a small side door used for taking out the kitchen trash. Someone slipped out, carrying a black umbrella with one of its spokes broken. The figure hobbled against the strong wind, the tattered umbrella nearly ripped from their grasp. As they approached the tree where I was hiding, I recognized the wrinkled face, wet with rain. Mrs. Sterling? Her voice was a quivering whisper, half sob. Oh, dear Lord, how did it come to this? It was Maria, the oldest housekeeper, who had worked for the family since David was in middle school. Her thin body was shivering, but she quickly held the umbrella over me, letting her own back get soaked by the downpour. Maria, I looked up, my eyes stinging, and not from the acting this time, seeing the sincerity in her old eyes, at a time when my husband's own family had spat on me, felt like salt in an open wound. What are you doing here? You'll get in trouble. Go back, Maria. I'll be fine. No, ma'am. I can't let you freeze to death out here. What they did, it's a sin, Maria said, pulling at my arm, trying to help me up. Her strength was feeble, but her will was iron. Come with me. We'll use the side gate, the one for the trash. The security guard won't see. The camera there has been broken for a week. I hesitated. If I was caught, my whole charade could be ruined, Or worse, Maria would face the consequences. But the cold was biting deep into my bones. My lips were turning blue. I finally nodded, letting the old woman guide me through the darkness. We crept like thieves into our own home, through the small, rusty gate, down a narrow, smelly alley, and finally to the servants' quarters at the very back of the property. This area was a world away from the main house. Here, the walls were damp and the paint was peeling. Maria opened the door to her room. It was tiny, maybe 6 by 9 feet, containing only a simple cot with a thin mattress, a rickety plastic wardrobe, and a small, dusty fan. But to me, in that moment, this stuffy room smelled more luxurious than a 5-star hotel suite. "Come in, ma'am. Sit on the bed," Maria said, locking the door behind us. She immediately grabbed a towel from a hook. "I'm sorry, ma'am, the towel is rough. It's mine." I took it and dried my hair. Maria rummaged through her wardrobe and pulled out one of her own faded dresses, but it smelled clean. "Change out of those wet clothes, or you'll catch a cold. I'll hang them behind the mini-fridge to dry." After I had changed, she had me sit on the cot. She then unwrapped a small package from waxed paper. It was a half-eaten sandwich and a small apple. "Eat this, ma'am." It was my dinner. "I haven't touched it yet," she said, handing me the food. I looked at the simple meal, then at Maria's gaunt face. I knew the rule in this house. The staff didn't eat until their work was done at 9 p.m. It was only 8. It meant Maria hadn't eaten all day. "What will you eat if I take this?" I asked softly. Maria smiled, revealing her few remaining teeth. "Oh, I'm fine. I have some crackers. An old woman like me doesn't need much. You're young. You need your strength. Please, eat. You'll make me sad if you don't." Tears streamed down my face. Real tears this time. I sobbed as I ate the sandwich. It was plain and cold, but it tasted like the most delicious meal in the world, seasoned with incredible kindness. Maria rubbed my cold feet with warming balm, murmuring prayers for me. "Be patient, ma'am," she whispered. "God sees everything. The wheel is always turning. Right now they are on top, they can step on people. But who knows, tomorrow they might be the ones needing your help." Her simple words struck my heart. Maria didn't know that tomorrow was literally the next morning. "Maria, I'm so sorry for troubling you," I said between sobs. "It's no trouble. A long time ago, when my son had leukemia and I couldn't afford the bills, you were the only one who secretly gave me a thick envelope of cash for the hospital. I've never forgotten that, ma'am. Mrs. Sterling wanted to fire me back then for taking too much time off to be with him. I was stunned. I had almost forgotten doing that. A small act of kindness I had put out of my mind had become my salvation in my darkest hour. As the night wore on, the rain subsided. Maria laid out a thin mat on the cold cement floor for herself to sleep on. "Maria, please, sleep on the bed with me," I begged. "Oh no, ma'am, it wouldn't be right. A boss shouldn't sleep with her help. I'm fine down here, it's cooler," she insisted gently. Within minutes, I could hear her steady breathing. I lay awake, staring at the cobwebbed ceiling. All desire for sleep was gone. The burning rage had transformed into a cold, tactical plan. I reached for my burner phone. It was still working. I turned on the screen. There was one new message from Victoria, my personal assistant and most trusted employee. From Victoria. "Mrs. Sterling, the targets have taken the bait. Eleanor just emailed confirmation for a $5 million loan from our Shell Financial Company, using the deed to her current residence as collateral. She's asking for the funds to be dispersed tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I smiled faintly in the darkness. So foolish. Eleanor was so desperate to maintain her lifestyle that she'd borrowed money from a lender she thought was legitimate when it was actually a subsidiary I owned, created specifically to acquire distressed assets. My thumbs flew across the cracked screen. To Victoria. "Have the Rolls-Royce Phantom ready. Bring all original documents. Pick me up tomorrow at 8 a.m. at the coordinates I'm sending. Make sure you are impeccably dressed. We're going to put on a show." After sending the message, I turned off the phone and hid it. I closed my eyes, imagining Eleanor's face tomorrow morning when she discovered who really held her financial lifeline. But just as I was about to drift off, I heard heavy footsteps approaching the servants' quarters. They stopped right outside Maria's door. The doorknob began to turn. My heart stopped. I held my breath, pressing myself into the thin mattress. On the floor, Maria was frozen, her eyes wide with terror, staring at the flimsy wooden door. The doorknob jiggled again, more forcefully this time. "Maria, are you deaf?" It was Jessica's shrill voice, muffled but clear. I squeezed my eyes shut. If she came in and found me, not only would I be humiliated again, but Maria would be fired on the spot without a second thought. "Yes, Miss Jessica, I was sleeping," Maria called out, her voice raspy, forced to sound like she'd just woken up. "Don't forget to skim the pool before Mom wakes up. Some leaves fell in during the storm. If she sees a single leaf, I'm docking this month's pay for my new skincare routine," Jessica snapped from outside. "Yes, miss, right away." There was a moment of silence. Then the sound of footsteps retreating, accompanied by grumbling about lazy help. I exhaled a long, shaky breath. Safe, at least for tonight. The morning sun streamed through a crack in the vent, waking me. I checked the burner phone, 6:30 a.m. Time to go. Maria was already gone. On the small table was a mug of warm tea and a couple of granola bars, with a note scribbled on a piece of scrap paper. "Ma'am, I had to start work. Please eat this. Don't leave until I give you the all clear." My heart warmed. In this cold, magnificent house, this tiny, cramped room was the only place that felt like a real home. I ate quickly, then smoothed out my worn clothes. I wouldn't leave through the door. I slipped out the back window, which opened onto a public footpath behind the exclusive neighborhood. At exactly 8 a.m., I walked down the alley toward the coordinates I had sent Victoria, the parking lot of a quiet convenience store about a quarter-mile from my in-laws' gate. There, a stark contrast awaited. Parked among the mundane commuter cars stood an obsidian-black Rolls-Royce Phantom. A uniformed chauffeur stood beside the rear passenger door. As he saw me approaching in my ragged clothes and flip-flops, he didn't bat an eye. He bowed a perfect 90 degrees and opened the heavy door. "Good morning, Mrs. Sterling," he said respectfully. I slipped into the soundproof cabin, the scent of premium leather and the cool air conditioning a welcome relief. Across from me, Victoria sat poised with a tablet on her lap, dressed in a sharp, gray power suit. "My God, ma'am," Victoria gasped, staring at my appearance. "You are truly committed. I almost didn't recognize you. You smell." "Sorry, ma'am. A little ripe." "Save your sympathy, Victoria. Report," I said coldly, reaching for a tote bag containing a change of clothes. The car's privacy shades were drawn. Victoria handed me a thick red folder. "As you predicted, Eleanor applied for the $5 million loan, but our audit team found something else this morning. A plot twist." I paused from buttoning my white silk blouse. "What is it?" "Look at page 3, Victoria said, pointing to a flow of funds chart. "Eleanor and Jessica's lavish lifestyle isn't funded by the late Mr. Sterling's business. That company has been operating at a loss for 2 years. My eyes widened as I read the numbers. "Then where is Jessica getting the money for all those Hermes bags?" "From Ryan, her husband," Victoria replied with a knowing smirk. "Ryan is the head of the finance division at one of your regional subsidiary branches. Our internal audit found a discrepancy of about $20,000 a month being funneled into a personal account under Jessica's name." My blood boiled. They weren't just insulting me. They were stealing from me. Jessica was mocking my poverty using money her husband stole from my own company. The irony was so thick it was nauseating. "Excellent," I hissed. I finished putting on a limited edition black blazer, fastened diamond earrings, and slipped on a pair of oversized sunglasses. I folded Maria's old dress neatly and placed it in a golden paper bag. "And the deed to Eleanor's house?" "It's in our hands, ma'am." Because it was a high-interest bridge loan that she agreed to without reading the fine print, and because she requested an instant disbursement, I was able to set the first payment as due today. That predatory clause means if she defaults, the house is automatically seized. I smiled, satisfied. It was cruel, perhaps, but spitting in the face of a starving person was far crueler. I was just playing their game by my own rules. "Prepare a termination letter for Ryan," I commanded, spritzing myself with Chanel No. 5. "We're about to have a family reunion they will never forget." "Right away, ma'am." "Oh, one more thing," Victoria said, stopping me. "A text came through on your old phone from David. Just now." I grabbed the burner phone. Sure enough, a single message from my husband. "David. Amelia, Mom just called me on a satellite phone. She said you showed up making a scene, telling lies. She said you cheated on me and ran off with another man until you went broke. Where are you? Stop embarrassing the family." Go back to Ohio and leave my mother alone." My hand trembled. Not from fear, but from a surge of pure rage. Eleanor had already twisted the story. And my husband, the man I loved, believed his mother without even asking for my side. "Drive," I said flatly to the chauffeur, "and ram the gate if you have to." The Rolls-Royce purred to life, gliding out of the parking lot, carrying the Queen back to her castle to deal with the traitors. But as we turned onto the main street leading to the house, we saw a crowd gathered at the gate. An ambulance was there, its lights flashing. Victoria checked her phone frantically. "Ma'am, it looks like there's been an incident at the house." The Rolls-Royce crept forward, parting the crowd of curious neighbors. A slow, polite honk made them step aside. Parked in front of the gate was an old, beat-up ambulance, its back doors wide open. My heart pounded. Had Eleanor had a heart attack? But as we stopped, the scene that unfolded made my blood run cold. It wasn't Eleanor or Jessica on the stretcher. It was Maria. The old woman lay pale and frail, an oxygen mask on her face. Beside the stretcher, Jessica stood with her hands on her hips, jabbing a finger at the paramedics. "Can you hurry it up? Stop blocking the driveway. My friend is coming over for brunch," Jessica shrieked. "It's just a maid who fainted because she skipped breakfast. So dramatic, calling an ambulance. It's making a scene." Eleanor stood on the porch, fanning herself, looking annoyed. "Honestly, can someone handle this? I don't want my house roped off like a crime scene. If she's going to die, she can't do it here. It's bad luck." "Enough," I said to my assistant. "Victoria, handle the hospital administration. Get her the best VIP suite. I want a specialist looking after Maria, now. Money is no object." I opened the car door. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria was already out of the car, running toward the paramedics. I took a deep breath, adjusted my sunglasses, and stepped out. The sharp click-clack of my Christian Louboutin heels on the asphalt was a commanding rhythm that silenced the crowd. All eyes turned to me. The aura of wealth from the car, my clothes, and my bearing made everyone fall silent. Even Jessica stopped her tirade, her mouth hanging open as she watched the woman in the designer blazer emerge from the billion-dollar car. She squinted, not recognizing my face behind the large sunglasses and elegant makeup. "Excuse me, who are you?" Jessica asked, her tone suddenly polite, assuming I was some important guest who'd gotten the wrong address. "If you're here for a charity donation, we're a bit busy right now. We have a sick maid." I didn't answer. I walked right past her as if she were a lamppost. I went to Maria's stretcher just as they were loading her into the ambulance. I gently touched the old woman's cold hand. "Hang in there, Maria. You're going to be okay," I whispered. Maria's eyes fluttered open. She looked at me, confused. Then a tear rolled down her cheek. She probably thought she was dreaming. After the ambulance doors closed and it sped away, carrying the only decent human being in that house, I turned to face Eleanor and Jessica, who were now standing together, looking utterly bewildered. "Thank you for calling an ambulance, even if your intentions were foul," I said, my voice flat. Jessica frowned, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Wait, that voice. Slowly, I took off my sunglasses. I stared them both down with a sharp, unwavering gaze. Not a single tear, not a hint of fear. Jessica's face went white as a sheet. The fan in Eleanor's hand dropped to the ground. Amelia?" Jessica stammered, taking a step back. Her eyes darted over my appearance, from my perfectly coiffed hair to my gleaming shoes. "How? What are you? But you're a beggar. You're broke." Eleanor's shock quickly morphed into crimson-faced rage. Her devious mind immediately concocted its own narrative. She strode forward, a trembling finger pointed at my face. "Oh, so this is what you're doing now," Eleanor shrieked, her voice returning to its full, grating pitch. "You lied to us. You pretended to be broke and now you show up in a fancy car? You must have found some rich old man to be your sugar daddy. Or did you sell yourself to rent this car just to show off to us?" The neighbors who hadn't left started whispering. This was better than reality TV. I let out a small laugh, crisp and piercing. "Sugar daddy? Selling myself? Your imagination is as filthy as your soul, Eleanor. Don't deny it." Jessica screeched, her jealousy exploding at the sight of my handbag, which was far more expensive than anything in her collection. How could someone who was begging for scraps yesterday be riding in a Rolls-Royce today if it wasn't dirty money? You were trying to scam David, weren't you? To drain his money for your disgusting lifestyle. David's money? I stepped forward, forcing them to back up onto their own porch. Let's talk about money, Eleanor. Jessica. But not out here. It would be a shame for the neighbors to find out that this respected family is actually built on a foundation of lies and debt. How dare you? Eleanor's hand flew up to slap me. With a swift, reflexive motion, I caught her wrist mid-air. My grip was strong, channeling all the pain from the day before. Don't you ever touch me again, I hissed, my face inches from hers. Your hands are too dirty. Yesterday you spat on my face when I begged for water. Today I guarantee you will be the one begging me for it. I threw her hand back, sending her stumbling into Jessica. Inside, I commanded, pointing to the open front door. We'll settle this in there. You have guests waiting for you in the living room. Guests? Who? How dare you? Jessica shrieked hysterically. Ignoring them, I strode into the luxurious house, the house I had bought with my own hard-earned money. In the living room, sitting on the leather sofa where Jessica usually lounged, were two men in sharp suits whom Victoria had let in through the side door. One was my corporate notary, the other was the best divorce attorney in Los Angeles. On the coffee table, a small briefcase was open, revealing stacks of cash, sitting next to a green folder stamped with the words, "Asset Seizure." Eleanor and Jessica followed me in, panting. When their eyes landed on the briefcase of money, the anger on their faces instantly dissolved, replaced by a disgusting, naked greed. "What is this money?" Eleanor asked, her voice suddenly soft, her hands itching to touch it. "Amelia, is this for us? An apology?" I sat down in a single armchair, crossing my legs elegantly, looking at them like a queen addressing rebellious peasants. "Sit down," I ordered, "and prepare yourselves. The next 5 minutes are going to be the worst 5 minutes of your lives." Eleanor and Jessica sat down stiffly, their eyes glued to the open briefcase. Their lust for money had completely eclipsed their shame and pride. "So," Eleanor cleared her throat, trying to regain some semblance of authority, "what is this about, Amelia? And the money? If this is a bribe to make us forgive your insolence yesterday, I suppose the amount is considerable." Jessica nudged her mother, her eyes gleaming. "She's right, Mom. Amelia probably realizes she was wrong to prank us. That's all it was, right, Amelia? A test? You really had us going there." I stared at them, my expression flat. "Shut your mouths. I didn't give you permission to speak." Silence. Jessica looked ready to protest, but the steely gaze of the two men beside me made her shrink back. "Allow me to introduce you," I said, gesturing to the man on my right. "This is Mr. Hayes, my company's notary. And to my left, Mr. Thompson, my lead counsel." "Your company?" Jessica scoffed under her breath. "What, did you open a food truck?" I ignored her and nodded to Mr. Hayes. The older man opened the green folder and produced a thick, official-looking document. "Mrs. Eleanor Sterling." Mr. Hayes's voice was deep and authoritative. "According to our records, yesterday afternoon you signed a digital loan agreement with Sterling Capital Ventures for $5 million, using the deed to this property as collateral. Is that correct?" Eleanor's face paled slightly. She was shocked her secret was out. "Yes, that's my private business. What about it? It's a legitimate loan. I can afford the interest payments. David will help pay it off. What does this have to do with you?" I leaned forward, looking my mother-in-law dead in the eye. "The connection, Eleanor, is that I own Sterling Capital Ventures. I am the sole shareholder. I am the chairwoman of the board." Eleanor's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. Her mouth fell open, but no sound came out. Jessica stared at me as if I'd just sprouted a second head. "Liar," Jessica shrieked. "That's impossible. You're just a housewife whose only job is to shop. David is the one who works hard." "David," I chuckled softly, "is my employee, Jessica, an operations director that I pay a salary. The mining company where he works? It was my father's. The finance company you borrowed from? It's my subsidiary. Even that boutique where you're constantly running up a tab. I'm the majority shareholder." The air in the room became thick and suffocating for them. Cold sweat beaded on Eleanor's temple. "So, you were the one who gave me the loan?" she stammered. "Precisely," I replied, casually spinning an expensive pen in my fingers. "And as the owner, I have the right to review a debtor's risk profile. Considering you spat on the owner of the company yesterday when she asked for a glass of water, I'd say you fall into the category of a high-risk debtor with a defective moral character." I turned to Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson, what is the status of Clause 45 on page 12 regarding unilateral cancellation? Mr. Thompson adjusted his glasses. It can be executed immediately, Mrs. Sterling. If the lender finds evidence of bad faith or asset manipulation from the borrower, the loan is voided, and a penalty of 200% of the loan value becomes due in cash within 24 hours. Failure to pay results in the automatic seizure of the collateral asset. 200%, Eleanor cried out, clutching her chest. $10 million. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? That is not my problem, I said coldly. You have 24 hours. Or, I glanced around the luxurious living room, you and Jessica will vacate this house immediately, because as we speak, the deed to this property is being transferred to my company. You're evil, Amelia. Pure evil. Jessica lunged at me, but my personal security guard, who had been standing by the door, quickly intercepted her. Sit down, Jessica, I snapped, my authority filling the room. I'm not finished with you. Jessica was pushed back onto the sofa, breathing heavily. What else do you want? What more can you possibly do? I took a brown envelope from my bag and tossed it into her lap. Open it! With trembling hands, Jessica opened the envelope. It contained photographs and bank statements. Her face, flushed with anger, turned a ghostly white. Your husband, Ryan, I said slowly, emphasizing each word. Head of finance at the Phoenix branch. The audit report came in this morning. A suspicious transfer of $20,000 every month into your personal account for the last 2 years. Total embezzlement, $480,000. Eleanor whipped her head around to face her daughter. Jessica, what is she talking about? Your monthly allowance was stolen money, I cut in sharply. The money for the Hermes bags, the spa days, the trips to Aspen, all of it was stolen from my company by your husband. Jessica burst into tears, her body shaking uncontrollably. Amelia, please, don't call the police. Ryan will go to prison. And why shouldn't I? I stood up, slowly circling their sofa. Yesterday, when I asked for help just for shelter from the rain, what did you say? Don't come in, you'll dirty the Persian rug. Now you're asking me to help keep your thief of a husband out of prison? I stopped directly behind Eleanor's chair and leaned in to whisper in her ear. Remember your spit, Eleanor. I can still feel it on my cheek. Now I'm returning the favor, in the form of the law. I took out my phone and typed a quick message in front of them. Look, I said, holding the screen up for Jessica to see. The message was to my head of HR. Terminate Ryan Thompson for cause, effective immediately. Forward all evidence to the Phoenix Police Department. File charges. Amelia, no, don't send it, Jessica screamed, trying to grab my phone. Too late, my thumb hit send. Whoosh. Sent, I said flatly, putting my phone away. Enjoy your ruin. Before Jessica could even scream, her phone, lying on the coffee table, began to vibrate violently. Her husband's name flashed on the screen. She stared at it in horror, then at me, then back at the phone. Her hand shook as she answered and put it on speaker. Ryan's voice came through, broken and panicked, with the sound of approaching sirens in the background. Jessica, can you hear me? The police are at my office door. They have a warrant. This is all because of you and your insane lifestyle. You're the one who pushed me to do this. Are you happy now? Are you happy now? No! Jessica screamed, throwing the phone onto the carpet. She covered her ears, sobbing hysterically. No, it can't be. She slid off the sofa and collapsed onto the floor, a trembling, broken mess. Eleanor was frozen, her face ashen. She looked from her devastated daughter to me, still sitting calmly. You're a monster, Eleanor whispered, pointing a shaky finger at me. You destroyed my family. Correction, I said, setting down my teacup. I didn't destroy anyone. I simply turned on the lights. And it turns out when the lights come on, all the rats start scurrying. Rats? You call us? Eleanor surged to her feet. She grabbed a crystal vase from the table, ready to hurl it at me. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat loudly. Mrs. Sterling, I must advise you that committing physical assault in front of legal witnesses will add a string of felonies to your current legal troubles. Eleanor's arm froze midair. The vase trembled in her hand before slipping from her grasp and rolling harmlessly onto the thick carpet. Her fight was gone. Give it back, Eleanor whispered, her voice a desperate plea. Amelia, please, call off the police. Pay off Jessica's debt. Let us stay here. I promise. I promise I'll treat you like a daughter again. I'll make David be good to you." I laughed, a genuine, bitter laugh at her pathetic offer. "Eleanor, don't you get it?" I stood and walked toward her. "I don't need you to treat me like a daughter." "And David?" I picked up a stack of $100 bills from the briefcase and fanned them in front of her face. "This money. I had set this aside for your anniversary gift next month, a whole briefcase, just for you. But," I dropped the bills onto the floor at her feet, "because of what you did yesterday, this money will now be donated to a nursing home, a place you might just end up." Those words were the final blow. Eleanor's face turned a deathly shade of purple. Her eyes bulged, and she gasped for air, clutching her chest. "Mom? Mom, what's wrong?" Jessica cried out from the floor. Suddenly, Eleanor's body went rigid. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and her legs gave out, thump. She collapsed onto the floor, landing on the pile of money, her body convulsing once before going still, her breathing ragged. "Mom!" Jessica screamed, crawling over to her. "Mom, wake up, don't leave me!" Chaos erupted. My legal team stood alert. I looked down at my mother-in-law's motionless body. I felt no sadness, only a profound emptiness. This is how pride ends, felled by the very money it worshipped. "Victoria," I called calmly. "Yes, ma'am." She appeared instantly. "Call another ambulance. Not the VIP one this time, the standard city one. Use their insurance, if they have any, and make sure Jessica goes with her. Once they are off this property, lock the gates, change all the access codes, and burn everything that belongs to them." "Yes, ma'am." Just as my security team moved to help Eleanor, the sound of a car screeching to a halt filled the driveway, followed by a slamming door. Someone ran into the house, breathing heavily. "Mom, Jessica, what happened?" It was David, my husband. He stood in the doorway, still in his dusty field clothes from the mining site. His eyes widened at the scene, his mother unconscious, his sister hysterical, and me, his wife, standing tall like an executioner. He looked at me, his eyes a storm of confusion, fear, and anger. "Amelia." His voice was low and trembling. He strode past his mother and came directly to me. "What did you do to my family?" "What did I do?" I repeated his question. "The better question, David, is what did your family do to me when I came to them for help?" He grabbed my shoulders. "My mother is an old woman, Amelia. Whatever she did, she didn't deserve this. You're my wife. You're supposed to respect her," he yelled. "And Jessica, why is Ryan being arrested? Have you gone insane with your money?" I shoved his hands off me. "Respect?" I laughed without humor. "Listen to this, David. Use those ears that have only been listening to your mother's poison." I pulled out the burner phone and hit play on the recording, turning the volume to maximum. Eleanor's voice filled the room. "This house is not a garbage dump, and you, Amelia, you are nothing more than trash." It was followed by the wet, disgusting sound of her spitting, and then Jessica's mocking laughter. David's face went slack. That must be because she was shocked. She was emotional. He stammered. "She spat on me, David." I cut him off. "Your mother spat on your wife's face when she was begging for a glass of water. And you? When I texted you for help, you told me to go home and stop embarrassing the family. You believed her over me." David fell silent, his shoulders slumping. "Amelia, we can talk about this. Please, just call off the police. We can start over. I'll talk to Mom." "It's too late," I said coldly, signaling to Mr. Thompson. The lawyer stepped forward and handed a blue folder to David. "What's this?" he asked, his hands shaking. "Divorce papers," I answered. "And a termination letter." David looked up, shocked. "Termination? Who do you think owns the company you work for, David? Who pays you that 6-figure salary that allows you to buy your mother jewelry while telling your own wife to be frugal?" I stepped closer. "It's my company, my father's legacy. You work for me." I stayed quiet all this time to protect your ego as a husband, but today, your ego died along with your mother's respect. David collapsed onto the sofa, his legs giving out. The truth had shattered him. "As of today, your company, car, apartment, and credit cards are revoked. You have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings. After that, anything left will be burned." Without waiting for a response from the silently weeping man, I turned and walked out of the house for the last time. My Rolls-Royce was waiting. Victoria held the door. "To the hospital, ma'am? To check on Mrs. Sterling?" she asked. "No," I said, getting in. "To the hospital where Maria is. Upgrade her to the presidential suite. When she's recovered, arrange for her passport and visa. I'm sending her on a first-class trip to Hawaii next month. Then buy her a nice, comfortable house in her hometown. She is more family to me than anyone in that house ever was." The car pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I saw David run out, chasing the car, shouting my name. But the windows were soundproof. I couldn't hear him, and I never wanted to hear him again. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of my new penthouse in Singapore, sipping chamomile tea and looking out at the Marina Bay sands. Life felt light. News from L.A. had come from Victoria that morning. Eleanor had suffered a permanent stroke, leaving her partially paralyzed. With the house seized and her assets gone, she now lived in a tiny, cramped apartment on the outskirts of the city. Jessica's fate was worse. Her husband was sentenced to 5 years in prison. With no skills other than spending money, she was now working 2 minimum-wage jobs to survive. David, stripped of his title and wealth, was struggling to find a job, his reputation tarnished. And Maria? She sent me a postcard last week from Maui. The picture showed her smiling on a beach, looking happier and healthier than I had ever seen her. The back of the postcard had only 3 words written on it: "What goes around